Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Real Estate Mindset Investor. And this is because creating generational wealth in real estate requires 5% strategy and 95% mindset. Now, I'll talk to you about later on about what this sentence really means and why I'm saying this all the time. But today, I just wanted to expand a little bit more on something that I talked about a couple of days ago. It was regarding the two basic elements about living a successful and fulfilling life. And these two elements were education and motivation. Now, I say I'm going to expand a little bit more about education itself. And just because I say that I'm going to expand on it doesn't mean that I'm going to go in full detail. But don't let it fool you when I don't expand on something in itself because as you may know, I have been studying these ideas of mindset and personal growth with a passion, positively obsessed with this study of these ideas. And I've come to the conclusion that part of my purpose in life is to share everything that I've learned because of all of it has done for me so far. And the reason why I say don't let it fool you is because even if I tell you a single idea, these are ideas that some of them um, have pretty much made me explode when it comes to growth. They have helped me take quantum leaps. In some of these ideas, of course, I've heard you, many of you have heard them. I have heard them before, but learning them from a higher level of awareness makes a huge difference. So even if I don't expand on something, and if there's an idea that you may have not heard of before, or that you may have heard before, but you think that is somehow important, there's a reason why you think it's important. Take it down, write it down, and take that one piece away for yourself. Because you can take a single idea, no matter how in depth you go into it, and every time that you hear about it, or you listen to it, or you read it again, or you think about it again, it's always going to be from a higher level of awareness. And that's going to make a huge difference in your life. So, what do I mean by expanding on that concept of education? So, last time I spoke about it not necessarily being from the perspective of education, when the type of education that we get in high school or in university. These are, of course, important pieces of education, or this is important education. But But what I'm talking about is the type of education from the perspective of mindset and personal growth. So it's not necessarily about gathering information. Like most of us think that even, I think in the general population, we believe that even what we do in high school and university is that basically we're gathering information and we pass a test and then we go on. But many people actually graduate and don't eventually do not become successful or fulfilled. So the education that I'm talking about here from the perspective of mindset and personal growth comes from the ideas of a gentleman called Sidney Herbert Wood. Now, I did speak about this of the first point last time, and this was, am I able to entertain a new idea? So that's the first point that I want to expand on. Am I going to be able to entertain a new idea? You see, most of us, we go around in life and we have these programs in our minds, we have these beliefs in our minds, and every time that a new idea comes to us, we immediately reject it. And that's how we are programmed. So, this new concept is, are we able to entertain a new idea? Means when an idea comes along, We are not going to reject it. We are not going to immediately accept it, and we definitely are not going to neglect it. But what we are going to do is trying to get into the habit, or not trying to, we're going to get into the habit that every time a new idea comes to us, we are going to ask ourselves, will this idea help me reach the star that I'm shooting at? That's the question that we're going to ask ourselves. If it's not going to help us, we are going to reject it. If it is going to help us, we are going to take it in, and we're going to make it part of ourselves. And we are definitely not going to neglect it. If we neglect it, then it's going to be very hard for us to continue in a path of growth and making quantum leaps. The second point is very interesting, is are we able to entertain other people? So I've learned that the majority of the people are very uncomfortable walking up to a stranger and introducing themselves. And yes, it seems like an odd idea. Of course, it seems like an odd idea. This is how we are programmed. But guess what? There's a gentleman, most of you probably know him. His name is Alfonso Cuadra. He says a lot, and this is very true, that in order to get from where you are right now to where you want to go, the difference in between is people. So this is how important it is to feel comfortable being able to entertain other people, being able to introduce ourselves to other people. So for example, we understand that networking is an important part of the process when it comes to real estate investing. But how many of you go into a networking event and only go directly to the people that you already know, that you feel comfortable with, and you don't go outside of that bubble? Anyway, that's my take on that idea. Are we able to entertain other people? The third one is very interesting. The third point is, are we able to entertain ourselves? Now, the gentleman that I study the most when it comes to concepts of the mind and personal growth, his name is Bob Proctor. He explains that when he was a younger boy, when he was a young fellow, before he even started studying these ideas, he would never be able to be alone. He would never be able to be by himself. It was always like, hey, what are we going to do now? Who am I going to be with? Let's go to a party. And he was never able to be with himself. I myself remember at some point in time being like that as well. If I was ever alone, I would think of a friend and I would immediately call that friend and go to him or walk to his house or give him a call, but I wasn't able to be by myself either. But the fact is that learning how to entertain ourselves is so important. And again, this is my take on it. It's because we need to be able to be alone with our thoughts sometimes. And it's the fact that it's with ourselves that we are able to grow into better beings. We are able to be more creative. We are able to think creatively. And being comfortable with ourselves will eventually mean that we will be able to be comfortable with other people and to make other people comfortable with us. So those are three basic points regarding the stuff that I wanted to expand on, because I didn't expand on this last time I spoke to you. And this was just on education. I just briefly touched on that point of education, and I briefly touched on that point of motivation. But as we keep talking about this more and more, I'm going to continue talking about these topics, and as you hear them more and more, and as I talk about them more and more, we are all going to interpret these ideas from higher levels of awareness. And eventually, what happens through the power of repetition is that it will no longer be just gathering information. It will not no longer be some knowledge that we entertain in our conscious mind. In other words, intellectual comprehension of the ideas, but more about internalizing it. internalizing them, making them part of ourselves, being able to walk around and just have these ideas as part of our beings, and then our success takes further quantum leaps just by default because we've made them a habit. Anyway, I'm going to leave that at that for now. Please remember to like and subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube, and I will talk to you very soon. Bye for now.